Thank you, SIRCRONE, for taking a few moments of your time to discuss the process in the creation of the Cronenberg gang. You've been called the quote Picasso of Ravencoin, and I cannot disagree. Except you're much more than an artist. You are a developer and a builder of so many great things happening in the Ravencoin space. So, on that note, I was hoping you could share with the viewer today a little more about the Cronenberg gang. I feel you are telling an incredible story about what transpired these last few years, and each piece has so many layers. You were really foreshadowing with the creation, even of Cronenberg number one, of where we are sitting at now in our culture, in the cryptocurrency space, in our political climate. And could you tell me, just to start out, what was going through your mind when your hand hit that canvas, even on Cronenberg number one?
Well, hello, thank you. I'd like to express my gratitude for you taking your time to ask me questions and, and care about what's going on in my little world here. Definitely some big titles. I appreciate it. I don't see myself that way. I just see myself as just some person somewhere in the internet just making stuff, you know? But obviously, like, outside looking in is always different than being inside the box, right? So I definitely appreciate you taking the time and asking me questions. Yeah, so a lot has happened. It feels like an eternity, but it's just under like 2 years, right? Um, but in terms of the actual question you've presented so far in relation to what I was thinking, like the moment I put the pencil to the canvas, as you just say. So the Cronenberg Gang is a digital art collection. So the canvas is digital media, and I'll be honest with you. I had no idea what I was doing, to be honest. it might it might seem like it was really thought out. It started to evolve the second I started drawing it, right? Because that's sort of how my mind works, right? I'll just kind of just go with the flow. I'll have like an original concept. So at that time, I'll be honest, I noticed that there was a lot of attention on creating monkeys, right? Like everything was monkeys in hats,
Yeah.
monkeys with a bat, monkeys in your pocket, monkeys with a wallet, right? It's almost like Dr. Seuss was creating every single potential ape art you can think of. So I was like, what can I make that sort of utilizes that logic of different but the same, but without utilizing a monkey? So I was like, well, every time I look at these monkeys, they're just trying to twist them up more and more and more. So I said, why stop there? I said, why not almost like put creatures in like this, like think of like back in the day the creepy crawlers, right? Like you put that little ooze and then you would bake it, and then you got like this little monster that was multicolored. It was kind of like that. I was thinking of taking monsters, putting them in like this machine that just like messed them up, right? And originally I had no name for it. I came up with these weird things, and then I realized, wait a minute, it reminds me of that movie The Fly, right, where the guy invented teleportation through space, but he fucked up. He didn't account for a fly to end up with him. And you would think such a small thing could have such disastrous effects, right? Like a fly is like this big and we're so big, but in terms of the way like DNA and blah 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 and all that scientific stuff works, even the smallest variation in a DNA sequence can end with such varied results, even from the same starting point. So I said, what's my starting point? Well, monsters and humans and just twisting things up. So then the first one I said, how can I make this the most prettiest, ugliest thing possible? So I was like, okay, what kind of animals are like? I think octopus are cool. I was like, I think ooze is cool, right? So like if you look at that first one, you'll see like just a bunch of things just kind of like mutated into one.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna make an NFT and then let me try to list it. So I listed it and it sold, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. Like I was really confused at first because I was like, I didn't tell anybody about it. I don't know who was watching it, but I guess it caught someone's attention and it sold very quickly. And I've said this story many times, and I was like, okay. I was like, let me try another one, and then I did the same thing. I just took the logic and you know, and at that point I already came up with the name, and the name was Cronenberg Gang. for a multitude of reasons, right? So once I came up with that whole mutated concept, I took my graffiti name, which is Crone, or what in terms of the internet world, I'm SIRCRONE, and because I was inspired by the movie The Fly, which was directed and I believe produced by Cronenberg, which is the director's last name. And around that time, I was really into, and still am into, Rick and Morty, because I like the creativity and the concepts that go into it. And it became another variations of that because in the cartoon they would call mutated creatures Cronenbergs. So it just made sense to call it the Cronenberg gang.
Yeah.
um, so that it fit perfectly. It was like meant to be, right? So I named it. I made that first one. I made the second, third, fourth, and as it progressed, I felt the story needed to get deeper and deeper. Um, and little by little, I started to take personal experiences that I was having um, at the time um, within Ravencoin community, the world at large. Ultimately, the concept was inspired by the COVID pandemic. Um, Once you play the game and you start to put the pieces together, you'll understand how and why the story is sort of along the lines of that. Um, but yeah, so I started making the NFT collection, and then I think halfway through, I posed the question to the online Twitter community, asking like, "Hey, what should I do with this collection? Should I make 1,000 of them like everybody else is doing?" I'm happy that they didn't agree to do anything like that. So I put up a poll, and I was like, "Do I make 20, 30, 36, 50, 100?" And the number was 36 that it was landed on. So I was like, that's an interesting number because it's not too little, not too many. At that time, I think I was around like 18 or so. So I kept making more and more story because each NFT in itself has a story in relation to the collection, and to society, to myself, and even the collection itself. Right? Like, I think it's Cronenberg 24 and 25. I think they merged together. One's a spider, and then one was a
Yeah.
crab, right? And one was like based on a werewolf. One was based on a vampire because it was a vampire crab with the werewolf spider, wolf spider. And so even within the collection, there is sort of a link and a communication. So I try to keep things really, really, really broad, but at the same time very direct once you understand the story. So now we're getting close to the final stretch, what I call is where I'm going to be minting the actual interactive game. I know I've been talking a lot, but it deserves this amount because I've never really fully divulged everything that's going on, and even still, like I'm still holding back because there's just so much like twirling around. But we're getting close to the final Cronenberg, which is Cronenberg 36, and you could interject anytime you want if you have a question or a comment. And like I was saying, if you have a question or comment, you could interject at any time. I'm just gonna keep kind of
No,
flowing
no, this is perfect. This is perfect.
because I'm on that rail, I'm
Absolutely.
on that
Yeah,
rail, and
just
I'm
keep
just
going. Keep
coasting.
going.
So
Yeah.
we're towards the end of the collection, which is going to be Cronenberg number 36. Cronenberg 36 will be the end of the NFT collection, but it's not the end of the art project, because the interactive game, which I'll be minting early June. I'm sure once you're hearing this, the game would have been minted already. So I'm speaking to future people. How is the future? Please let me know. Drop a line. Hopefully everything is good, because right now it's pretty crazy. So with the interactive game being minted, that opens the door to me finally getting to the point of what the collection was decided to be a quarter of the way into it, which is going to be a tabletop battle card game, kind of like a collectible trading card game. Very light focus on collectible because the focus is mainly the collection. So the interactive game and the tabletop printed card game are mainly going to be just hype drivers for the NFT collection, because I want people that invested in me and the collection and the art early on, who are still holding, to reap rewards of immense hype. Once people start playing the game, they can be like, "Holy crap, there's an NFT collection attached to this game. Holy shit, there's a printed tabletop card game. Holy crap, I can buy these things and they're on Ravencoin. And how much are they? here, take my money. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
want it to be like that. That's sort of been my focus throughout the whole thing. It has really been nothing but me trying to find ways to give back to people who invest, because as an outsider looking in, I've witnessed a lot of people lose money, buy into things that were hyped, and lose money. Right? Like all of a sudden you got all these art projects that were coming out. People were saying, "Yo, this is it. You got to buy this. You got to get in now." And obviously, it's like the same person making another collection that's based off the same exact roadmap. They took a template of what to do that was happening on the ETH, and they just filled in the blanks and said, "Hey, buy this." They hyped it up themselves. They bought it themselves, and then they disappeared. And then people just sitting there left hanging. So everything I've been doing has been done to give value to my investors. That's what I call them. My collectors, my investors. So the game, the tabletop game, it's really just to drive the collection more. And also, since the collection was mainly like, it wasn't really sold for a lot till the very end. We peaked at around almost 40,000 Ravencoin at the time, and I think at the time it was about uh, 3 nickels, right? About 15 cents,
Hmm.
or about a dime between there when it was 40,000 Raven. So the game, the reason why I feel like this interactive game is special is because, one, it's a tutorial for the card game. Once you play the interactive game, you'll sort of understand the dynamics and the story for what the cards represent. But also in the game, I tried to create as much community link into it. So, for example, there are people in the Ravencoin community who have characters in the game. As you know, you're in the game, Sunny. You're in the WAGMI HQ, right?
I even got to dress myself. You let me pick out my headphones and my I loved it. It was
Yeah, no,
so
it's
much fun.
awesome, and I think that's the greatest part of it. It's like people who know nothing about Ravencoin will play this game and be like, "Oh, who's Sunny? Oh, who's NFT RVN? Oh, who's this Raven shop, whatever." So they're gonna all of a sudden learn about the history of Ravencoin by playing this game, and by playing the game, you one have a chance to win Cronenberg 36, which at today's valuation, if it sells for what I think, uh, I'm I'm guessing if it were to sell, it could easily sell for upwards of 200,000 Raven, which for today's price valuation is between $4,000 to $5,000, because one of the last Cronenbergs that was sold for roughly $3,000. So it would just make sense that the closing NFT of the collection would really peak, right? At the very least, it would set a new standard.
And
Um,
it's such a great carrot to get people inspired to because we've already established a quote unquote floor for the game.
yeah,
There's,
exactly.
and so it's for somebody to come in and play a game and to win the most valuable because it is going to be the last Cronenberg.
Yep,
Of course, the first and the last are always the most coveted NFTs in any
it,
collection. So
it makes sense.
yeah, it's just really inspiring for I think for people just coming in just wanting to play and win something, but also to set an example for how somebody could come in and create a collection and just build the hype, build the story, just like what you've just told right now, and just who knows what I don't know. To me, I'm very I really do think that NFTs are a new asset class, and we're really making history here. And you're really going to be the first of hopefully many stories
Yeah,
like
I hope
the
so.
Cronenberg gang. Yeah. So I think this is, I'm really, thank you so much for agreeing to expand on the Cronenberg today
Yeah, no
because
problem.
I think it's really, I'd like to mint this actually as an NFT. Maybe we could mint this as an NFT so that it'll be on the blockchain on IPFS so that nobody can take it down. And, the story is there to be told directly from the artist with
That sounds
no
like a really cool
interpretations
idea.
needed by
Well,
us.
everything's gonna be tokenized, so it just makes sense that this would be tokenized as well.
Yeah.
And I guess that could lead me into a segue of, aside from hyping my collection, right? Like this, like my collection, I feel is multi-purpose, right? I'm thinking in terms of like peak utilitarianism. I'm making another word today. I call it utilitarianism. It's just finding as much utility out of one thing, right? like a hammer. A hammer could be a doorstop. It could nail a hammer in. It could be used to destroy something, build something. So I feel like my game hopefully doesn't destroy anything, but hopefully it creates utility in a sense of it shows people what can be done, right? It shows that it's more than just a picture now. It's an
Exactly.
entirely programmed game living on the layer 1 blockchain of Ravencoin, which links art to people, to websites, to marketing, to blockchain, to crypto. So I feel like, I don't really know what it's going to do or what it will help trigger in someone else's mind. But hopefully, when they see it, they're like, wait a minute. I thought NFTs were just pictures. And now I'm playing a game by having an NFT. So then they'll say, well, let me try this, and then let me try that. And I feel like this could be that caveat that causes almost like, that domino effect, right?
Absolutely.
So people are going to say, hey, maybe I could mint my movie. Maybe I could mint, like Raven Rebel says all the time, my company coupon or promos. Maybe I could print, special sale things or whatever. Again, I can't think of it because I'm not those people, but I'm hoping it does.
Yeah.
So there's many. This is why, like, I've spent just over a year now developing this game where I thought initially it was going to be a 3-month game, and then little by little I said it's got to have this, it's got to have this, and I have been, no use for a better word, sacrificing myself. It's a lot to every day. I have not missed a day since I started doing some kind of programming on it, some kind of research on making it better, and some kind of thinking about and developing the artwork, because there's not only is there programming in the game development, that you have animations, you have communication between databases, so there's a lot that sort of all hinges on itself. So for me, it finally getting to this point, it's kind of like a breath of fresh air, like a sigh of relief, right? Like it's like, finally.
Yeah.
But I know there's more to come, right? Because I know myself, unfortunately, because who doesn't know themselves better than themselves, right? Because I know what this is gonna do. It's gonna make me think more and be like, well, I gotta outdo myself now.
Yeah. Two things that I wanted to add on and to ask is, the fact that Ravencoin is a human readable blockchain, and could you talk about how you decided to uh, name your collection, and just expand on that and how that ties into marketing, and what impact you think that the fact that Ravencoin is a human readable blockchain, what impact that'll have on kind of where we're going in this blockchain space.
Yeah, 100%. So the beauty of it being human readable, as you say, not many people really understand it yet. But to put it simply, it's kind of like a domain name, right? You say it all the time. I say it as well. I piggyback on that. When you think of a domain name, right, you think of, let's say, AOL.com. Easy to remember, 3 letters. You think of WagMeNFT.net. It's an acronym, right? Acronym for WagMe, acronym NFT.net. Memorable. You think of, I don't know, I don't want to give free promo to too many companies, but I'll keep it Ravencoin. So, for example, NFT RVN. 6 letters, right? Now, when you take that concept, when you're typing in those domain names, what they really are doing is they're pointing to something. For example, WagMeNFT.net is probably pointing to like 123.456.897.002, right? It's an IP address. So it's similar on the blockchain, right? So when you search the blockchain address, right, for SIRCRONE, what you're really looking up for is a hexadecimal hash that lives on the layer 1 blockchain, but the way it's coded is it finds that hash based on the human readable words. So you don't have to remember 0x57939 whatever 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 like other blockchains. You just type in the artist's name, right? Like we can go to the blockchain right now and type in SIRCRONE, and you'll see every single NFT I've ever minted under that main asset. You type in WagMe NFT, you'll see every NFT that was ever minted under that asset. You don't have to type in 0x5 one and a whole bunch of hashes to find it, right? Like ETH. You have to know that hash to find
Yeah.
that NFT, correct?
Yeah.
So with Ravencoin is different. Like if you're a company and you want people to find your NFTs, you don't have to send them this long string of codes, and you don't have to create any kind of contract to point to it. The blockchain itself is already encoded to find it based on your company name. So, for example, if if let's say you're, um, Nvidia, right? Just mint Nvidia as your main asset, and that's like your main domain name. Everything you mint under that will live under that name. If let's say you're Chick-fil-A, you mint it under that name. Let's say you create coupons every month. Every single coupon you've ever minted will show up under that main asset. So people can find what they want faster. And that I feel is an upper hand in business, right?
Yeah.
Because if someone could find what they're looking for, that's 99% of the battle, right? It's like location, location, location. If
Mm-hmm.
if I tell you I have, you know, a burger shop on 5th and Main, but there's 20 other burger shops, someone will end up at a burger shop. Are they going to find mine? Maybe. It's all probability at that point. But if they know exactly SIRCRONE's burger shop, like, oh, it's right there. And I feel
Yeah.
that's part of the power of how Ravencoin is developed, you know? And that's why I
And
chose to dedicate so much into developing on this chain.
yeah, and I think that you harnessed it really well in your collection. The idea of transferring that marketing potential within the name.
Yeah.
And the other one that comes to mind is the Simple Bee Honey Rescue. You did
Mm-hmm.
that NFT under the Cronenberg collection, and that was, I believe, a series of was it 20, or it was a
It,
series?
it started, it was a sub asset of 100. At 50, I stopped selling. I didn't disclose the reason why till I stopped selling. It was again because I like adding story to everything, right? So with that collection, because what they do is they capture wild honeybees, they quote unquote domesticate them. They they take the queen, right? They take care of it. They take care of the hive, and then after they get the honey, what they do is they split the colony, and they keep half the hive with them, and then they send out half the hive back into the wild. They relocate it to set up a new
Beautiful.
hive.
So,
That's
so,
my
so that is
memory.
so that story is on the blockchain, and it's on a
Yeah.
human mutable blockchain. And it's I also watched you work on that in your game, which was really fun. You have the beehive,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's in the game. So
Spoiler alert.
talk about, yeah, spoiler
Spoil.
alert.
We gotta try. We gotta try not to do too many.
Yeah, okay. But the cross marketing potential is just incredible. What you can do.
No, 100%. Yep.
Yeah.
Uh,
So yeah, I think that so I guess that what I'd like to do now is I think it would be fun to talk about the Cronenberg number 36, which I
mm-hmm.
had a good laugh at. I watched the live. You had the YouTube. I believe it was. I don't even know what to call it. It was you
Oh,
had the speed
the progress, the art progress.
art progress. Yeah, I watched the art progress to music, and I thought that was fun.
Yeah, I like doing that. One, like for me, for myself, I go back and because when I'm drawing, I don't see what I'm doing, if that makes any sense. So when I record myself and watch myself later, I'm like, why was I thinking to do that? Okay, that's cool. And then what it does is it's sort of like a baseball player, right? Analyzing footage of they're swinging the bat, and they're like, oh, okay, my left leg is turning too fast, and I'm losing whatever it is. So for me, it's like me watching the footage of myself and saying, oh, you know what? I could have done it differently. I could have done this, or I could have done that. And I feel like that helps me as an artist to observe myself, not in a sort of vain way, but more of in a research-driven way to find out how can I become a better version of myself artistically. And it's also cool because I feel like if that could inspire someone else to make art, I never look at it as someone's gonna steal my art style because no one's ever gonna think the way I think. People can create art that's similar, but they're not gonna think the way I think. That's gonna be very difficult to clone. You know what I mean? And if they
That's
start
right.
thinking like me, then we're in the matrix.
Clone crone.
There's only one crone.
One crone.
One crone. But yeah, so Cronenberg 36. I wanted it to sort of be a finger point to society right now. Everyone's all up in arms and stuff, and everyone's always they're battling on the semantics. It's like it's almost like I don't know. It's weird. It's just really fucking weird, and people are just arguing over words at the
Yes.
end of the day. So it's
Yes.
like, and what's the hot button word now? Woke, right? So I made it Dr. Woke. You know, it's got its 5 booster shots. You know, it's got the potion C. You know, and that's it. It's Dr. Woke. Well,
It's beautiful.
thank you.
Really well done. We really could talk about this for hours and hours. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more discussion about your art going forward. And, just you as an artist, you're just a very complex, multifaceted individual. And it would be short selling to call you just an artist.
I
But
appreciate
this has
that.
been
Thank
really
you.
fun.
You're making me blush.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that. I hope that we can mint this and put it on the blockchain for others to see, and if maybe at some point we could delve into some of these other Cronenbergs that
For sure.
I would love to know more about too. I mean, the ice cream crone is one of my favorites. I own
Which
that one
one?
actually. Ice cream crone number
Oh, the 30.
yeah, number 30.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, I even forget myself.
Oh my gosh. Well, this was at the height of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
FTX scandal, the Do Kwon scandal. I mean, how many scandals can crypto possibly take?
yeah, yeah.
And this was right at the heart of that. Actually, it was before
It
that.
was
So
just
when I
before.
when I say that you are foretelling, you're foreshadowing what is to come, this was when it was just people weren't even talking about it. It was FTX wasn't even
It's a
he
clown
was actually
show.
still a saint at this point. You
I,
know?
I, I think, I think, I think people weren't even using the word clown show yet.
No.
That's funny.
So well done.
I appreciate it. Uh, so yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Again, like I could, keep going deeper and deeper into the story, but we'd be here for a very long
Yeah,
time.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think this is great.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
Maybe
you giving me the opportunity to express what's going on over here and
I
tell
cannot wait
people
to see it
about me.
minted, and I'm going to be in there with a lot of other people to download the game. And I'm not a gamer, but doesn't mean to say I'm not going to try to win it. I'll be there with
It's
my four thumbs.
once you start and you get a little familiar with it, it's really 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 simple to play. It's just have fun.
Yeah. Well, the art is spectacular. Just
Well, thank
even
you.
if you're not a gamer, just to go in and enjoy the art and to get a taste of how you create. And of course, it's 8-bit, so uh, it's just really fun just to see the artwork in it.
100%.
So, okay. Thank you so much, Sir Crone. I appreciate your time.
No problem, Sonny.
And I'm
Thank you.
so grateful to know you as a person and as an artist.
Thank you. Likewise. Appreciate it.